Good afternoon, friends. After a quite long time, we have met, and today in our discussion, I will discuss some of the rubrics of culture studies and its significance on society. Now, it is summer, we all know. A terrible corona atmosphere is going on, and we are all perturbed by this novel virus, that is coronavirus, novel coronavirus, and therefore we are all staying at our homes, we are gossiping, we have plenty of time, we take plenty of leisure to take ourselves to the realm of a new fascination. We see cinema, we see serials, and we have plenty of time to play the indoor games. So, I've talked about the term cinema, radio, and also we have the mobile games. So, these are also parts of the culture we are now going on. And this culture studies is all about culture that are going down to the ages from the Plato's time, the philosopher Plato, from Plato's time to modern world, culture is always dominant. Nowadays, culture has a multidisciplinary meanings. Culture not only about the high or mass culture, it is also some low culture, and we also have variegated cultures throughout the ages. Now the century, 21st century, we are going on. Today, culture has got mixed up with many multidisciplinary themes. In Richard Hogarth's Uses of Literacy, we find that Richard Hogarth, the famous cultural studies critic, or the founder of the Triple CS Contemporary Center of Culture Studies, he in 60s, 50s and 60s, 1950s and 60s, in his book Uses of Literacy, he stresses on the working class culture. What do you mean by working class culture? The culture, the working class, they dominate, they practice the culture that is called the working class culture, and it is against the mass culture, because mass culture is also culture of the dominant group, or the popular culture, it is also the culture of the dominant group. Instead, Richard Hogarth promulgated the culture of working class culture. Working class means the person who are daily labor and wage earners, etc. Another very famous critic of cultural studies is E.P. Thompson. He also took the role of negativity of Richard Hogarth's view. He instead gave importance to mass culture. So we have mass culture in E.P. Thompson's view. After that, Richard Hogarth, he gave the pioneering theme of cultural studies, the presidency, to Stuart Hall, who in 1970s he shared the New Left reviews, in which he viewed culture studies in various stratas. Stuart Hall, he had given us so many critical points which are much discussed in the culture studies arena. Stuart Hall's production, circulation, uses and reproduction of culture, they are also the relevant documents of our communication studies, and these are the very much revelatory of the cultural studies discussion. In our discussion and the theoretical assumptions of cultural studies, we can find that cultural studies has relationship cultural studies has relationship with various other disciplines, and we have circuit of culture. We have There's so many multidisciplinary terms came, and they garnered the very much fabric of cultural studies. Now we'll come to our next much discussed critic of cultural studies, who is Raymond Williams. Raymond Williams, in his Culture and Society in the late 60s, it focused some lights on cultural studies. We all know Matthew Arnold, who wrote Culture and Anarchy, which has a direct bearing in the discussion of culture studies. And we find F.R. Leavis, who term culture studies ordinary, because every culture, according to F.R. Leavis and his wife Q.D. Leavis, they, in the great tradition, they saw mass culture as ordinary culture, and their view of on culture is very much monolithic in their arguments, because culture is not about the mass culture, or not only it about the high standard culture, it is about the culture we are the domineering cultures which are going on till the ages. So we have found that various antagonistic views and various conflicting views came, and they coerced and make new meanings. And we have, in Raymond Williams' view, the long revolution in 1960s, 61, dominant culture, residual culture, and emergent culture. What do you mean by dominant culture? Dominant culture means the culture which is going nowadays. That is the present culture. What is residual culture? The earlier culture, which is now is kept at bay. And the last but not the least, that is emergent culture. That is the culture which is at present will grow, and it will took a leading role to the future. For given example, we can take an example that the Beat Generation movement in the 1950s, which was an emergent culture in those days, and now it got mixed up with our new culture, and it became the dominant culture nowadays. Gradually, it will also become a residual culture in the near future also. And Stuart Hall's discussion of encoding and decoding, these are also found expression in cultural studies and related to the reception theory. So I have said that cultural studies is the multidisciplinary in its nature. So we can find the Marxist theorist Althusser, whose ISA and RSA, that is the repressive state apparatus and ideological state apparatus, they are the very much revelatory in the discussion of culture studies. Gramsci's hegemony. Hegemony means power. Power the people, the domineering people hold on the subjugated people. By power, they can subjugate the common mass. Barthes's views. Foucault. Foucault was a very prominent critic in the power and knowledge relationship. Foucault said that the powerful people gain power through knowledge. Knowledge is the hallmark to gain power. So knowledge and power are the two sides of a same coin. Panopticon theory by Foucault. Foucault's panopticon theory based on the surveillance state, and it dates also back to the earlier critics' views. Surveillance tower means the state has power to have a surveillance of all the people who belong to the state. Media culture, that is now we are going, is a media culture. Media culture means the mobile phone, the electronic gadget, television, radio. Those are the cultural intermediaries through which our views and the new society gain the cultural connection, and this is called the cultural intermediaries. So we have found the very new terminologies related to cultural studies. And In media culture, we find the camp on photography like Susan Sontag's views and Carnivales Gala, Laura Mulvey, whose gaze theory is very much important, queer theory like Teresa Lottius, who termed queer theory. And in the respect of queer theory, we find transgender theory and the animal studies and by Peter Singer, trauma studies by Kalital, and cyber feminism is very much important discussion, that is cyber feminism. Feminism, we all know very much, feminist discussions, and feminists there have many functions to rule the society, the mass, the domineering people, the patriarchal views, they are all critiqued in feminist theory. And we have Donna Haraway's cyborg studies. Cyborg studies is very much new, it is very novel a thing in the discussion of the feminist theory of cyber feminism. And post-humanism, like human beings and the relationship with human beings, the animals and the flora and the fauna, we find post-humanism. Race studies by Paul Gilroy, Black Atlantic, it is a very important book in race studies, Paul Gilroy's Black Atlantic. So now we have found that culture studies is also a multidisciplinary aspect, and it has a strong impact in society and politics. In this view, I will just term a book by, that is Political Shakespeare by Jonathan Dollimore and Alan Silfield. They said that Shakespeare is also politicized. That is Shakespeare the canon, the famous dramatist of the English literature, and the Shakespeare became canon, and Shakespeare is also politicized. And in this respect, the Jonathan Dollimore and Alan Silfield's book Political Shakespeare, it denotes the culture of cultural materialism. That is, culture is always related to politics and materialistic views. So cultural materialism also has a bearing with its American counterpart, the New Historicism and New Historicism views. But there is a difference between them, that cultural materialist views are very much political and they are historical views, and New Historical views are also historical, but they are not overtly political. So we have now come to our conclusion to the discussion of cultural studies, and I have tried to basically focus on the main points of cultural studies and impact on society. And if you like my video, please subscribe it and give like and share it so that I will be encouraged. And thank you for your watching this video, and I hope I will make more videos for your help. And in this respect, please subscribe my channel and give like and share to my each and every video I will make. So thank you. Have a good day.